may be the year when we just move from one thing to another. I've got an American holly right here. That's a hackberry limb in front of it, but American holly there that's just about done. I've got some privet here that's almost done. And this persimmon tree in the corner of my yard has started to open. Bees are starting to work that. Persimmon can be a pretty decent flow in some years. That's good news. Persimmon and catalpa very often will bloom at around the same time. So hopefully we'll have a couple of minor flows going on for the next couple of weeks. This is a Texas goat roping right here. So I got a swarm on that tree limb and I cannot reach that high. So I cut it down and I'm about to cut this side too. Of course, landowner told me I can cut anything in here I want. I'm gonna leave the bottom part of this tree. I'm gonna cut the top parts off. Hopefully, if I have any more swarms this year, they'll be where I can reach them. We'll see what this one does. You can tell my frustration and putting up with nonsense factor's pretty low right now when I go to get the pole saw. Ugh. Dang bees. I just don't want to do what I want them to. Stacking up the L's. Loss, loss, loss. Oh well, as long as you catch them. That's gonna be a honey super. I'm gonna shake them down and put an excluder on there. This one's just been in there a day or two. They're gonna have that drawn out in a few more days. Amazing how fast swarms can draw wax. They just explode on the foundation. It's crazy. I think I've got this one clustering on the box now. A bunch of bees are inside. There's my queen right there, marked queen. And I don't have a queen cage, but we're gonna get her. There's the cause of my problems. We'll get her in a cage and stick her in there. So I got her in that cage there. I'll go ahead and slip that inside the hive. And we should be good to go. What the easy thing to do is just put it between the boxes. They don't have anything drawn in there. Well, this queen's inside in the candy cage. That swarm's caught. I'll go in there. It's right at 112% humidity. Bring out the sweat rag, sweat through that, and then sweat drips off your nose inside the bee suit. Welcome to Tennessee. Goodness. So it's not all losses. Took 2 splits out of this colony on April 15th. They're not looking too swarmy. I got 4 honey supers on it. They've got 2 full, 1 about half full. I just added a super foundation. It's not too bad. So this was a dirty split I made on 4/7 of a weak queen, coal hive basically. Left the original box here, dropped a cell in it, put a box of foundation on with a feeder, fed them, moved the queen over here. Came back today. It's been a month, and she's got sealed brood in there. Queen looks great. I marked her, They've got maybe 4 frames that they haven't drawn in this top box, but I went ahead and moved drawn frames to the outer sides and then pulled one drawn frame up into a honey super over an excluder. So we'll see if they make some honey for me. It'll probably be in June. You know, they've got to turn their population over. Bees in there are getting old and all that stuff, but they should start growing pretty rapidly. And I think they've got a chance of making honey. Depends on the flow. And so I just opened up this production colony. I found cells in it. This is a big hive. It's not anymore. So what I did is I pulled 2 frames of brood out. Those have got cells on them. And I pulled the top honey super that I put on last week that's just got 1 drawn frame in it. I'm setting that in the original hive spot, and everything else is moving but going in the same yard. So I've got 2 parts of it down here. Foragers are oriented to that location, so all the foragers will leave and end up drifting back to the original location. And they've got a lot of work to do in here. And they do have 2 queen cells. So this should restart this nuke, restart it as a nuke, and hopefully save my bees. Trying to keep bees out of the trees. That is a beautiful frame of honey right there. The tendency to dry cap or wet cap is what determines the color of the honey frames. Dry cap means there's a little bit of airspace between the honey and where the bees are capping it. It gives it this beautiful white color. The wet cappings looks just that. There's no airspace between the capping and the honey, and it looks darker. So it is a genetic trait, and when people were big on honey competitions at the state fairs and things, they bred heavily for the tendency to dry cap. I don't. I do think this is pretty, but I think production and not swarming is prettier than this, because this is just going to go into the uncapper anyway. Good to see this, though. I enjoy it. So I just confused these bees a bit. I had a colony on the bottom that tried to swarm early, so I split them to pieces and then took a split above a double screen that did actually work out. And the bottom was still queen right, had the old queen in there, but she tried to swarm when she was still small. I don't know why. So I had 3 boxes on the bottom, entrance facing forward. I had a double screen on the top, entrance facing back, 2 boxes on top. And they were doing really good with this new queen. The bottom was just languishing. So today I lifted the top off, went into the bottom, found the old queen, killed her, threw her in the grass, and took the new queen in her nuke and set it on the bottom board. Put a queen excluder over top of that second box, and every other box is now going to become a honey super. I offset this super in the middle there so the forage force that's oriented to the back of the hive can find an easy way in. And now I've turned 2 mediocre colonies, one with promise, one with no promise, into one colony that if we get a good Dutch white clover and sumac flow, I bet they'll fill all 3 of those supers. There's a good chance for it anyway. So I just found another production colony that had cells in it. It actually had some that were open. So there's some virgins running around in there. Took it down to the bottom box, put a box foundation on that. They'll catch the forage force. Double screen. Got one split here with a 1 cell, and then double screen facing forward. There's the entrance to that one. We've got another box with bees and brood and a couple of cells and some opened ones as well, and then a box of foundation because this one's a little stronger. And I'm taking their honey supers off, not looking for the existing queen at all. She could be up here, I doubt it, but I will find a worthy hive that is making honey and not trying to swarm and drop these honey supers on it. So the advantage of splitting up a swarming, or swarmy hive with double screens like this is I've got a much better chance of returning at least one mated queen, and I'm going to keep at least some of my bees here instead of going into the trees. And it doesn't take a lot of time. I'm not digging through here looking for virgins or, you know, old queens and all that stuff. That's a mess. I just set them apart and break them up. And, you know, if I've got a 75% chance of returning one mated queen, now I've got 3 chances at 75% each. So I'm almost surely going to get one queen back to this location and get this colony requeened. So here's my first round of nukes. I've already smoked them down some, but they've got 8 frames being worked on in here. So I'll move these frames into the center and pull up one that's does not have any syrup in it and get an excluder on them. I'll pull up 2. They move through an excluder better, especially if you put 2 drawn frames in, or frames that are being worked on. So probably going to super a bunch of these in here today. If they all look like that, they're going to be ready. Again, this is all depends on probably persimmon can be really good in some years, but usually not. So it's really going to depend on white clover and smooth sumac on whether I get anything from them or not. I don't have any drawn comb to give them, and I need foundations drawn anyway, so they're going to have to draw on the flow. Saturday, May 11th, and I've been wax dipping for 6 or 7 hours, 6.5, something like that. My dip tank's pretty simple. I built this to be a double-sided tank, and then I started running hotter at shorter time, and I can't keep up with both sides of it. And if I put too much wood in here, it foams too much and overflows. So if I were going to do this again, I don't know if I would do a double-sided tank. I might just do a single side. The pipe burners I got from, where did I get those? Tejas Smokers. They do pipe burners. Those were one of the more expensive parts of the whole system, and I think I would do the same thing. You can put those together yourself, but man, those come plumbed and with the Venturis by people who know what they're doing. They work really well. It's just a plug and play. So in 6 hours, I've done almost 300 mediums with no help. And I have had a couple of distractions. So I've probably lost 30, maybe 45 minutes of work time. I'm getting close to the end. I just got 5 more on the pallet and 15 here. Thank goodness. This is a lot of work, a lot of upper body. I'm constantly lifting boxes in and out of the tank and moving them, and it's a long day.